Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Inman, and today I'm here to read to you The Relatives Came by Cynthia Rylant, and it is a Caldecott Honor book. That means it was a runner-up to the award for picture books, and the pictures were by Stephen Gamble. And when you think about a picture book, sometimes you think it's just for the kindergartners or first graders. Yes, they would like this book, but really it's written on a 4th grade level, and so this goes along perfectly with the AMI packet for Reach, if you're doing that for 3rd through 5th grade, but anyone can listen, of course. In our Reach packet, we are really focusing on family, and that's what this book is focusing on. So I hope you enjoy the book, and then after, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions for you to think about the story and what was happening. And I'm going to pause for a few seconds, but then if you want to really talk about it with your friends or your family, you can actually stop the video after I've asked the question, and then I'll do a little discussion with you. All right, if you're ready, we're going to get started. The Relatives Came. This is a story by Cynthia Rylant. It was the summer of the year when the relatives came. They came up from Virginia. They left when their grapes were nearly purple enough to pick, but not quite. They had an old station wagon that smelled like a real car, and in it they put an ice chest full of soda pop and some boxes of crackers and some bologna sandwiches, and up they came from Virginia. They left at 4 in the morning when it was still dark, before even the birds were awake. They drove all day long and into the night, and while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses and the different mountains, and they thought about their almost purple grapes back home. They thought about Virginia, but they thought about us too, waiting for them. So they drank up their pop, and they ate up all their crackers, and they traveled up all those miles until finally they pulled into our yard. And then it was hugging time. Talk about hugging. Those relatives just passed us around their car, pulling us against their wrinkled Virginia clothes, crying sometimes. They hugged us for hours. And then it was time to go into the house, and so much laughing and shining faces and hugging the doorways. You'd have to go through at least 4 different hugs to get from the kitchen to the front door. Those relatives. And finally, after a big supper, 2 or 3 times around until we all got a turn at the table, there was quiet talk, and we were in 2s and 3s through the house. The relatives weren't particular about beds, which was a good thing, since there weren't any extras. So a few squeezed in with us, and the rest slept on the floor. Some with their arms thrown over the closest person, or some with an arm across one person and a leg across another. It was different going to sleep with all that new breathing in the house. Their relatives stayed for weeks and weeks. They helped us tend the garden, and they fixed any broken things they could find. They ate up our strawberries and melons, then promised we could eat up all their grapes and peaches when we came to Virginia. But none of us thought about Virginia much. We were so busy eating, hugging, and breathing together. Finally, after a long time, the relatives loaded up their ice chests, and they headed back to Virginia at 4 in the morning. We stood there in our pajamas and we waved them off in the dark. We watched the relatives disappear down the road. Then we crawled back into our beds that felt too big and too quiet, and we fell asleep. And the relatives drove on all day long and into the night. And while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses in different mountains, and they thought about their dark purple grapes waiting at home in Virginia. But they thought about us too, missing them, and they missed us. And when they were finally home in Virginia, they crawled into their silent, soft beds and dreamed about the next summer. And that's the end of our book. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that I got to share this book with you. The Relatives Came. It's one of my favorite books. The tone of it is happy. It's all about family. That's your theme. And I just really enjoy it. So when I was reading this book, I was thinking about how they were feeling. And the Virginians, the family from Virginia that came, how do you know they were happy to go and visit their family? What evidence in the book? It doesn't ever say, oh, they were so happy to see their relatives. It does not say that. But how do you know they were? You can either stop your video and talk about it, think about it, or you can just keep listening. I'm going to share with you in just a second. All right, when I was looking back at this and reading again, it says they left at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock. I really want to do something badly if I was going to leave at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that shows they were really anxious, weren't they? They got up really early. They knew it was going to be a long trip, and they were willing to do that. So that's one way. That's one piece of evidence I have, is they left early in the morning. And another one, as I'm reading through here, I'm going to skip around until I find it. It says here on this page, unless you see the pictures, it says there was hugging. Now, I wouldn't want to hug somebody I didn't like. Talk about hugging those relatives. So they were crying, it says. They hugged us for hours. So they were hugging, they were crying, and they got up early. Those are all things that you do when you're excited. You know, sometimes you cry when you're happy. And when I look on the next page, on this page, it shows them in the house. Again, it talks about all the laughing and shining faces. You know, if you're laughing, that shows you're happy. And then the shining faces, you know, shining is when you're happy. Your eyes are sparkly, you're smiling. And all those things show me that there was a lot of happiness going on. I don't have to be told they're happy. I can tell by their actions. All right. So I had one more question for you. And in this book, it talks about how they had to sleep together. You know, they had to sleep, you know, some of them slept in the beds together. Some of them slept on the floor. They just slept wherever they could. And it says it was different going to sleep with all that new breathing in the house. A lot of people were breathing. And then I just thought it was interesting that this person mentions this twice, because over here it says, but none of us thought about Virginia much. We were so busy hugging, eating, and breathing together. What do you think that person really means when they talk about breathing together? That's where you can stop if you want to talk about it. Well, when I think about just breathing together, I think it's just spending time together. You know, it doesn't matter what you're doing. There's all kinds of things you could do, but it really doesn't matter what you do as long as you're spending some time together and you're focused on each other. For example, you're taking pictures of each other. That's one of the things they did. It looks like they had a picnic here. That's why the pictures are so important in this book, because there's a lot of story told in the pictures. Cutting hair, playing together. Look at all the playing together that's going on. It's like playing horse. This one, maybe cowboys and Indians. Over here, they're working on the garden. And in this one, they're fixing a toy. Lots of different things that go on in this story that aren't in the words, but they're in the pictures. I love this. You know, at the beginning of the story, when they came, they broke the fence. Well, now they're fixing it. This is where they're breathing together, just being together. You know, I can see here that they're playing instruments. Oh, and I bet they're singing too. Don't you think? Don't you bet there's a lot of singing and happiness going on there? So that's what I think the breathing together means. It just means we're just together and spending some quality time and enjoying. So I hope you enjoyed this book, and I will see you soon with another Cynthia Rylant book that's about family. I plan to do one more. So I hope you tune in to listen to me next time. Bye.